श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। कनिक्रदज्जनुषं प्रब्रुवाण इयरतिवाच मरितेव नावं सुमङ्गलश्च शकुने भवासि मात्वा काचिदपि भाविष्व्या विदत मात्वाश्येन उदुपधीन्वासु पर्णो मात्वा विदधिषु मान् वीरो अस्ता पित्र्यामनुप्रदिशङ्कनिक्रदत्सु मङ्गलो भद्रवादी वदेह अवक्रन्ददक्षिणतो गृहाणां सुमङ्गलो भद्रवादी शकुन्ते मानस्तेन ईशतमाघशं सो बृहद्वदेम विदथे सुवीराः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। सभी को मेरा प्रणाम। भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा तथा एआईसीटी के सौजन्य से चल रहे योग कर्मसु कौशलम इस थीम के आधार पर चल रहे इस वेबिनार सीरीज में मैं आज के प्रमुख अतिथि डॉक्टर पुनिया सर, चेयरमैन वाइस चेयरमैन एआईसीटी, तथा आज की प्रमुख वक्ता डॉक्टर माला कपाड़िया जी, दोनों का स्वागत करता हूं। उसी के साथ हमारे बीच उपस्थित हमारे इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम के नेशनल कोऑर्डिनेटर प्रोफेसर मूर्ति जी, कोऑर्डिनेटर अनुराधा जी तथा असिस्टेंट कोऑर्डिनेटर अनुराग जी, और जितने भी दर्शक प्रोफेसर स्टूडेंट्स इस प्रोग्राम में यूट्यूब के द्वारा जुड़े हैं, सभी का मैं यहाँ पर स्वागत करता हूँ। और संक्षेप में इस वेबिनार सीरीज का, इस श्रृंखला के बारे में एक परिचय देता हूँ। यह श्रृंखला हमने अंतर्राष्ट्रीय योग दिवस के अवसर पर प्रारंभ की थी, जिसमें आज तक 4 वेबिनार हम लोगों ने किए। जैसा कि हम सभी को पता है कि वेदों का मूल, योग का मूल यह हमारे वेदों में आता है, और वेद यह हमारे संस्कृति के मूल है। ऋग्वेद में एक मंत्र आता है, यस्मात् ऋतेन सिद्ध्यति विपश्चितश्चन सधीना योगमिन्वति। जहाँ पर कहा जाता है कि सहा यानी वो, धीनाम यानी हमारे बुद्धि को, योगम इन्वति यानी योग की ओर लेकर जाए, यही प्रार्थना की जाती है। और वेदों के इसी संदेश को लेकर हम लोगों ने 5 विभिन्न विषय लेकर इस योग की श्रृंखला को आगे बढ़ाया, जिसमें सबसे पहला वेबिनार हमने किया था भगवत गीता में आने वाला योग, जिसके प्रमुख वक्ता थे श्री ए.बी. शुक्ला जी। दूसरा वेबिनार हम लोगों ने किया था चरक संहिता में आने वाला योग, विशेष रूप से चरक जी के जीवन के आधार पर, जिसके प्रमुख वक्ता थे डॉक्टर पी राम मनोहर जी। तीसरा वेबिनार हम लोगों ने किया था योगा डायमेंशंस ऑफ कलारी विद अ फोकस ऑन अगस्त्य एज इट्स फाउंडर, जिसके प्रमुख वक्ता थे डॉक्टर एस महेश जी, जिन्होंने अगस्त्य ऋषि का योगदान और उससे प्राप्त होने वाला योग कलारी कला के द्वारा, इसके ऊपर हमें उद्बोधन किया था। उसके अनंतर हम लोगों ने चौथा वेबिनार किया था ह्यूमन माइंड एंड इट्स मास्टरी, पतंजलि इनसाइट, जिसके प्रमुख वक्ता थे डॉक्टर विनय चंद्र बाणावती जी, जिन्होंने पतंजलि के सूत्रों द्वारा योग कैसे साध्य किया जा सकता है इसके बारे में हमें मार्गदर्शन किया। और इसी श्रृंखला में आगे बढ़ते हुए आज हम लोग इस वेबिनार तक आए हैं। तो आज का हमारा प्रमुख विषय है सस्टेनेबल हैप्पीनेस थ्रू आयुर्वेदा, जिसके लिए हमें प्रमुख वक्ता के रूप में डॉक्टर माला कपाड़िया जी आज आई है। तो ज़्यादा समय ना लेते हुए आज के प्रमुख अतिथि का मैं परिचय करके देता हूँ, और उसके अनंतर हम लोग उनकी आज्ञा से प्रमुख वक्ता की ओर बढ़ेंगे। तो आज के हमारे प्रमुख अतिथि है डॉक्टर एम.पी. पुनिया जी। He is specialized in the areas of mechanical engineering, renewable energy, and sustainable development. He is MTech and PhD from IIT Delhi. On 2017, Dr. M.P. Punia took up the responsibility of Vice Chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, New Delhi. He has also served as Director for National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research, Chandigarh, established by MOE Government of India. Then Dr. Punia made a significant contribution for the growth and development of technical education in the northern states of India and to conduct of sub-regional and in-country programs in collaboration with Colombo Plan Staff College for Technician Education, Manila, Philippines. He is the recipient of many awards for his academic achievements and National Award for the Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities by the Honorable President of India on 2013 in New Delhi in recognition of outstanding performance in the field of best institution for empowerment of persons with disabilities in the country. Since 2017, he continues his term in AICT with laurels for implementation and monitoring of quality initiatives instituted by AICT in the field of technical education, with emphasis on new technologies interventions. Model curriculum for UG and PG engineering and technology disciplines, management, then promoting innovation and entrepreneurship for young building aspirants, hackathons, mandatory internships and induction programs for students, national initiative for technical teachers training, examination reforms based on Bloom's taxonomy, which is the conceptual learning of students, are just a few quality initiatives Dr. Puniaji has fostered with determination and grit. He has been a key instrument for the success of induction program of students and the importance of universal human values in education today. Moving with a vigor for implementation of NEP 2020 to impart education in regional languages to students, the first year books of UG and diploma level have been made available. He is member of different high-level committees, I visits by UGC, search committees, selection committees, governing bodies of institutions in the country. He has been instrumental in discussing the NEP 2020 at various forums and implementing its objectives in entirely aimed at multidisciplinary and holistic education. He is an ardent follower of a fitness routine, be it yoga, workout videos, and an exemplary motivation for our stakeholders. Dr. MP Puniaji has been a part of integrational delegations to various countries for conferences, seminars, and mutual tie-ups. As per the Ministry of Education's order, Dr. Puniaji held the additional charge as Chairman, Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, Ministry of Education, established with an objective to evolve technical terminologies in all Indian languages. So, डॉक्टर पुनिया जी का मैं हमारे कार्यक्रम में बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ और सर ने बोला था कि सबसे पहले हम लोग आज के मुख्य अतिथि का उद्बोधन सुनेंगे, उसके उपरांत सर अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करेंगे। तो उनकी आज्ञा से मैं आज के मुख्य वक्ता का यहाँ पर भी परिचय देता हूँ। डॉक्टर माला कपाड़िया जी, Director of Center for Wellbeing and Wellness and Professor at Rashtam School of Public Leadership, Rushihad University. She is the founder of Human Potential Consulting named Tame and Monkey. Dr. Mala was an adjunct professor with SP Jain School of Global Management at Dubai, Singapore, Sydney, and Mumbai campuses from 2005 to March 2020. She's PhD in literature. Her academic journey is through psychology, human resources, yoga, and Ayurveda, film and video production. Her career has been through research, education, journalism, human resources, and consulting. Her area of research is Indic wisdom for the betterment of humanity. Her strength is integrating wisdom of India with modern theories and research in the fields of wellness and well-being, emotional intelligence, positive psychology, leadership, and feminine energy. Educational psychology through Ayurveda and yoga is an integral research area and one of the focus area of our current work, along with creating Indic frameworks and course curriculums for integration into mainstream courses. MBTI certified Dr. Mala also has certificate in Sattva Chikitsa from Kavikulaguru Kalidas Sanskrit University. She also has completed certificate course in Ayurvediya Bhuta Vidya with Ayurvodhini. Dr. Mala Kapadia has presented and participated in various international conferences and journals. She has embraced a sustainable lifestyle for years now and has been passionately involved with the Sustainable Living Initiative by Vaidyagram Ayurvedic Healing Village, Coimbatore. So, ज़्यादा समय ना लेते हुए मैं माला जी से अनुरोध करता हूँ कि कृपया आज के उद्बोधन को प्रारंभ करें।
धन्यवादः। Is the screen visible? I'll make it full screen now. Is it visible, Shreyas?
Yes, clear, very clear.
Namaskar, Punya ji, Ganti ji, Anuradha ji, Anurag and Shreyas, and all the participants who are here. My gratitude to AICTE IKS Ministry of Education Division for organizing this sustained understanding and awareness of yoga, because most of the times what happens is we celebrate one day and then we forget it for 364 days. I'm sure the entire celebration, it's like a yoga utsava. And with that, let me begin today's theme that I would want to share on the Antarrashtriya Yoga Divas. I chose the theme of sustainable happiness. And many of you would be wondering that why sustainability and why happiness, and how do we connect this to yoga or Ayurveda? The biggest challenge today we see, and in the pandemic last 2.5 years have proved that the biggest challenge to humanity is sustainability. And as I take you through the awareness from Ayurveda and yoga as to why this challenge we are facing, the major cause, sorry, or one of the root causes we can say is lack of dharma. We also see a lot of happiness courses being introduced in universities. And aren't we all surprised? We should all be surprised that is happiness something to be learned, or is that something which is our own nature, right? Ananda should be our nature, is our basic nature. And yet today we have reached a level, we have reached a point in our own history where we have to learn it as a course. In Harvard University, this is one of the most sought after course. Many countries like France, Dubai, Japan, they also have ministries of happiness, ministries of loneliness. And we also have surveys of happiness. Gross National Happiness Survey of Bhutan has actually carved a path away from the GDP or economics as being the center of our happiness, or economics as being the center of Human Development Index. What we are looking at COVID-19, and you'll be surprised that this is not the first time in our history of humanity that we are facing this crisis. Many, many years ago, this crisis has come time and again. And it is called Janapado Dhvamsa. Janapada is people, kingdoms of people. And Udhvamsa is the destruction of people. So in Charak Samhita, in Vimanasthana, there is an entire chapter on Janapado Dhvamsa. And what we called, and I was very surprised because I come from also the world, active world of human resources in corporates. And what they created from Industrial Revolution 1 to 4 is the VUCA world. We got disconnected from nature. We got into a cement concrete jungles rather than real forests. And therefore, what we have created is height of technology advances, but disconnection from our own roots. And therefore, the pandemic has actually made us aware that what we need is our health back in our life. What we need is our life back in our life. And unfortunately, all the medical systems in the world, all what they call healthcare systems in the world, have proved to be more of a disease care rather than healthcare. So at individual level, at community level, at public health level, the VUCA world transiting into pandemic has created huge crisis. When we look at the crisis, what we can see from Charak Samhita, sorry, the wisdom of Ayurveda, and I have drawn this framework going backwards because Charak Samhita very clearly says that what causes pandemic or Janapado Dhvamsa is climate change. And any of the curriculums, if we had really taught Charak Samhita with the right philosophy, then all the Ayurveda experts, at least from Bharata, should have been able to predict Janpado Dhvamsa, because more than 2 decades now we are facing climate change. Also, Charak Samhita very clearly says that climate change is experienced. Sorry, is there a comment or anything? Okay. Charak Samhita very clearly states that the climate change can be seen at 4 levels. The first level where we can experience climate change is air. And I don't need to give you the numbers of the cities from where we have been experiencing extreme pollution at the air level. I've just come back home in Coimbatore from Sonipat, where Rashtraman and Rishihood are. And if you look at the air quality index, it is orange and red in Sonipat and Delhi, while it is in green in Coimbatore. It is only 26 here today morning, while it is 250 in Sonipat and Delhi. Now, this is exactly where our antennas should have gone up, that air pollution is going to create major health crisis. From air, it goes down to water level. Let's say I left Sonipat and I've come to Coimbatore to fill up my lungs with fresh air. What about water? The pollution in water, the pollution that we see in our rivers, lot of movement, lot of crores of rupees are being investing into cleaning our rivers. Isn't that a sad reality of whatever technological advances and the industrial revolution has done to us? So from air to water also, we can leave those places where water is polluted. We can go to a place where maybe the water and air are pure. But the next 2 levels, we cannot escape them according to Charak. The next level of pollution or climate change is visible at Desha level. And when we say Desha, Desha is a space where we live. Now we can look at it at again 4 different levels. One, of course, is a geographical space where we live. Second is the social or the community environmental place where we live. Today we are seeing not only geographically the air and water and earth are polluted, but our social environment lacks the harmony, lacks the psychological safety. And the third level where we live is physical, and fourth is psychological. So we live in our body. Our body or a deha is also a desha where we live. Is our body Shuddha today? Is our body filled with ahara, which is organic? Is our body free of blockages? And we all know that pandemic has shown how our body had lost our immunity, and therefore even a little virus in the air has collapsed the entire health system. It has also created a lot of mental health issues. So what about the psychological? We also stay not just in our body or sharira, but we also stay in our manas or mind. Mind may not be the right translation, but manas is a bhumi where we all live, and we spend more time in our manas, more than even the external environment. Rajas and tamas has polluted our manas also so much that we are not able to have an unpolluted, a very calm or stable environment in our own manas. And the fourth reason after air, water, desha is kala. We all know that in our own philosophy of Sanatan Dharma, Kala is divided into 4 yugas: Satayuga, Dwapara, uh, yeah, and Kali Yuga. And we realize that the yugas are spiral. The yugas are not parallel, they are not linear. Now, in each yuga, the kind of contamination happens is very different. But when we come to Kali Yuga, it is the height of contamination. And why does that happen? Why is Kali Yuga more of a challenge? And therefore, in this framework, we go back. We go back from climate change to lack of dharma. we would realize that lack of dharma we are experiencing at personal level, at business level, at governance level. And one of the main reason for lack of dharma is greed in our human mind, which has created the unsustainable practices. Why would we need United Nations to give us sustainability development goals? And crores of rupees are again spent on conferences, on planning, organizational level, country level. People are trying their best to integrate these sustainable goals. And unfortunately, we are not really seeing any much of positive impact on the practices at the pollution level. Because if these sustainability goals were becoming a reality, then the climate change would not have gone to the level where it is today. And the personal level greed, adharma, has created business level greed. When we look at the triple profit, the profit, people, and planet, the triple bottom line for any business, unfortunately, we realize it has become only profit, profit, profit. People and planet, we had forgotten for many years. Even today, when we talk of new normal, and this is where little later I would talk of Hita and Sukhayu, which can create sustainable happiness. How do we get there and integrate dharma in our life to create sustainable practices? We are also seeing wars for power. The kind of pollution which is generated by these wars, it is unbelievable. In Mahabharata, when the Kurukshetra Yuddha was happening, while Krishna decided to participate, even if it is indirectly, by becoming a Sarathi to Arjuna, Balaram was very clear that I will not participate, I will not take sides between Kauravas and Pandavas. So what did he do? And this story is not very well known, but I think when we are now facing the pandemic, we all need to invoke Balarama, and Balarama needs to become our deity who can bring the dharma back. So what did Balarama do? He actually took all the old people, women, and children on a Tirtha Yatra. And he said that while the war is happening, a lot of unsustainable practices are taking place. A lot of pollution in the environment is taking place. I must do, and we collectively must do prayashchitta for the yuddha. Also with him, and this is a very less known fact, we must talk more about it. He took with him organic seeds, medicinal plants, and while he traveled on the Tirth Yatra, on the banks of many rivers, he kept on planting these seeds and he kept on planting medicinal plants. So that at one level, there is a destruction of environment. At another level, we are conserving, preserving our Sanatan Dharma. And along with Balaram's story, the last reason where what Charak Samhita says is that the lack of dharma at governance level, at the king level. So at one level, we can look at kings as CEOs or heads of organization, heads of countries, heads of world organizations. Where have they lacked dharma? And let me share a story. It's actually, I've learned it as a poetry many, many years ago in my school. And it has stayed so alive in my mind even today. Long, long ago, and those were the times when the kings were really worried about their praja. And they would, change their dress. They would be unrecognizable. And they would go out either at night or during the day and see how their people are doing. So this king is on a horse in the early morning. And he says, okay, before people start their daily routine, let me just have a round in my kingdom. And as he leaves the kingdom, he is reaching farmland where there was huge crop of sugarcane. He was also feeling thirsty because he has traveled a long way on his horse. And he sees an old lady working in the field. And the title of the poem is Gramya Mata, Gramya is village and Mata is mother. So this old lady working in the field is depicted as Gramya Mata. She doesn't know that this stranger who has come to her farm is a king. So when he comes and he says, Ma, I'm thirsty. Can you give me some water? She says, why water? I'll give you juice. And she takes out a sugarcane from her farm, cuts it, and even as she cuts it, the juice overflows from the sugarcane. The sugarcane is so full of rasa, or the juice of life. And then she takes out juice, fills up a glass, and gives it to the king. The king, while drinking the juice, is thinking that, wow, this juice is so sweet and the farm looks so healthy. I must charge more taxes from my people. I'm sure they are going to be very rich when the crop is so good. He, without thinking, mindlessly, not in a mindful way, he drinks the juice and gives the glass back to the Mata and says, may I have some more? And she is very happy to give one more glass to the stranger. She takes out another sugarcane, and while she cuts it, guess what? Now there is no juice in the sugarcane. And she's surprised. And she sits down on the ground and she starts crying. And the king is unable to understand. And he tells this old lady that, why are you crying? Take another sugarcane. It's okay if this one doesn't have any juice. I'm sure the other one looks good. You can pick up a better sugarcane. And then she nods her head and says, no, beta, now there will be no juice in any of my sugarcane. And the king is surprised. He said, why are you saying this? She says, somewhere the king of this kingdom has got greed in his mind. I don't know why, but I think adharma has entered his mind. And his greed, his adharma in his mind has taken away the juice of life, the rasa from the soil. And she keeps on wiping her tears. And the king gets down from the horse and he falls at the feet of this mother and says, please forgive me. I am that king. Please forgive me because I really thought of increasing the tax. And this beautiful poem has stayed with me even after so many years. I learned it in my school in Gujarati. And I think this poem, we should translate these such poems as a part of value education and spread it across all India curriculum. Because imagine the transformation that one old lady, an uneducated lady, illiterate lady, but full of life's wisdom, can create in the king if we integrate such learning in school curriculum, in corporate training programs, we will not have any pandemic anymore. So what is the lesson for us? Of course, we have seen the climate change causing the pandemic, lack of dharma, greed causing climate change. But of course, there is hope. Of course, there is optimism. And that comes from dharma. That comes from integrating practice of dharma at personal, business, and governance level. And therefore, this should enter the public policy and leadership rooted in dharma. And this, we have all been talking of new normal. However, I honestly feel that this can become the new world order and this can be the future for humanity. This is exactly what Sri Aurobindo had written so many years ago. And isn't it sad that even today, this is our reality? That at one level, there has been so much progress, what we call as progress, what we call as development, but which has created an evolutionary crisis. So what has happened, our external development has not actually created the internal development or inner consciousness, inner values. However, he also sees this crisis as an opportunity for our growth. We all know that dharma is not religion. It's really sad when we see dharma being translated as religion. And this is, I think, another collective responsibility for all of us to make sure that we create the right understanding of dharma as sustainability laws. These are universal laws. These are sanatan, eternal laws. And they are as true as they were when our rishis were writing them down. And even today, as we go through the VUCA and pandemic world, where we realize that, oh, we have broken the laws. And therefore, we need to go back to bringing dharma. Dharayati iti dharma. How can we have sustainability without dharma back in whatever we do? How can we have happiness without dharma in whatever we are doing in our personal life or our collective life? And as they say, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. The one who sustains dharma, dharma will take care. So can we try to look at how do we instill dharma again as a rita in our own life? How do we create, and this is where I'm working on Ayurveda psychology, because it's very less known. Unfortunately, yesterday also in the Yoga Day celebration, I realized that most of the celebration across world, of course, at one level, we feel very happy that more than 250 countries all over the world participated in International Yoga Day and they celebrated yoga as a way of life. However, unfortunately, most of them focused only on a minimum part, which is from the Hatha Yoga, the asana and pranayama. Some of them even talked of dhyana and dharana. Sorry. However, what about Ayurveda as a branch of psychology? What about Ayurveda giving us our dharma? What about Ayurveda as self-knowledge? Because the moment we say macrocosm and microcosm is one, the moment we say that Brahmanda and Pinda is one, so if there is a crisis in Pinda, I'm sure there is brewing a crisis in Brahmanda level. And therefore, today when we say that self-knowledge is meta skill, who better than Ayurveda to give us this self-knowledge? Who better than Ayurveda to give us the world view and also correct our self-view? Just 2 days ago at Rashtraam, we had an event, a leadership summit designed by our own learners, which was called Rashtra. And I participated in a panel discussion. Imagine what was the topic. The topic was cultured meat as the next reality of food. Where have we reached? And it is being positioned as dharmic food. Why dharmic? Because it will stop killing of animals. However, there are so many adharmic questions that are being raised. And how will we even answer this question if we really don't know our self-view and the world view from Ayurveda or the yoga perspective? So what is life or Ayu? When we say Ayurveda, Veda is knowledge and Ayu is life, as we very superficially translate. But Maharshi Charak, he calls Indriya, Sharira, Mana, and Atma as the combination collectively as Ayu. So imagine, Ayu is not just life or longevity, but our body, our senses, Sattva or Manas, and our Atma or soul, Jivatman, when they all are integrated, then we are living. And today we realize that at many levels, there has been so much contamination that we cannot say. I mean, it's very surprising that what Gallup has been doing as engagement survey is only at a cognitive level. Very recently, I had chance to interact with Gallup research team who have come with the happiness survey, the global happiness survey, and we see India at a very low level. However, when we understand how they have come up with the happiness survey, we realize that we must now have our own voice to redefine what is happiness and what is life. Gallup began with engagement survey. And what they found across the world, across global working people, that people are not engaged. They realize that 87% of people are not engaged. That means only 13% of people are looking forward to a Monday morning. Rest, 87% are looking forward to Friday evening. Now, if this is the kind of reality of working people and mainly youth, look at the kind of physical health and mental health crisis we were already going through all these years. And we never realized. We put this under the carpet. We became an ostrich and we said, oh, there is no problem with us. While in reality, the engagement crisis should have made us realize that, oh, there is something missing at a deeper level of life. Because life or Ayu is described as dhari. It holds life. It is described as jivita. So it's not just longevity. Now, today, when we look at people across the world, longevity has increased, right? The population of old people in many countries is increased many-fold. However, is there life in their life? How are they living? Are they living with their family? No. They are in a geriatric care. They are in old age homes. Who's looking after them? Strangers, professional nurses and geriatric care people. Their children or family are meeting them once in a month or once in 2-3 months. Most of them are either in a wheelchair or they are with artificial support. Most of them are going through depression. Why? Where is the life in their life? And this is where we should really worry that when we look at Ayurveda defining life, it not only says that may you have a long life, Jivet Sharadam Shatam, minimum 100 Sharada. And why Sharada? Because that is the time where a lot of health problems can come. So if you overcome the Sharada Rutu, then you are healthy. And therefore, minimum life with Jivita, with Dhari, with Chetana Shakti, with Utsaha, with engagement, you live with all this more than 100 years. So life is defined not just as longevity, but healthy life at physical, psychological, and social level. It has to be interconnected. Unfortunately, the modern medical care, what we call them as healthcare, has taken away the dignity of death. And dignity of death comes only from dignity of life. So we realize that when we are not dying peacefully at home, surrounded by our family with children and grandchildren and all the relatives, but we are having a lonely death in hospital with ventilator, right? And it's only a matter of time when the doctor says, we remove this artificial support and the life is gone. So there is no purpose in life. There is no interconnectedness in life. So Ayurveda, going back to Ayurveda, it has defined 4 kinds of life. It's very clear. Hita and Sukhayu, and just the reverse is Ahita and Dukhayu. Hita is a Sanskrit word. Sukha is also a Sanskrit word. Hita comes before Sukha. So lot of happiness courses which we see being taught. One, they are at a cognitive level. They look at happiness as a skill to be taught, but they don't see Sukha as a state of being. They don't see Sukha as coming after Hita. So if we are not living a Hita Ayu, we will not be able to live a Sukha Ayu. And therefore, Hita is just not beneficial. It also means blessings, creating happiness and welfare for everyone. Hita precedes Sukha. And therefore, only when we are interconnected, only when there is inclusiveness, only when there is an expansion of consciousness, only when there is sustainability, where there is a nature-connected living, then we will have a Hita Ayu. And all the UN Sustainability Development Goals, we realize that in reality, they are Hita-based goals. but there is no infusion of dharma or rita or hita in implementation of these goals. So the goals are great. However, the implementation needs a little tweaking of integrating Ayurveda and yoga, specifically the Hitayu. And how does it cross-cut many components? So Hita Ayu is at physical, mental, psychosomatic well-being. And today in the world, we see there not only physical health is a problem, but psychological, mental health is a great problem. And the only reference of psychosomatic well-being I have read in my research is in the work of Dr. Candace Pert. She was a psychoneuroimmunologist, and she's called the queen of psychoneuroimmunology. However, unfortunately, her work is not being propagated after her death. She very clearly said that if psychosomatic illness can happen, psychosomatic well-being can also happen. In her work, she acknowledges Ayurveda and yoga. On her website, you'll be able to see Anahata Shakti, the heart center based meditation. Today, there is so much of propagation of mindfulness as if comes from Buddhism and as if mindfulness is a new thing. But Hita Ayu in Ayurveda talked about mindful living, environmental consciousness many years ago. So well-being of all the livings, what we say is Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. So we pray for the well-being of all the Loka, not just our planet Earth. And we pray for all the beings, not just human beings. We pray for the entire cosmos. So this inclusiveness creates Hitayu. It also talks of social well-being fulfilled through Purusharthas. 4 Purushartha are the goals of our life. It's not that Artha and Kama were not there, right? Moksha, I have not written it here deliberately because unless we fulfill Dharma, Artha and Kama through Dharma, Moksha will not be possible. Hitayu talks of mental health to integrality of individual with the environment, spiritual intelligence, which is now being taught again as a cognitive skill, as a skill that can be learned. But unless we know our purpose, unless I know my swabhava and swadharma, how will there be a spiritual development? Seva is not something to be learned. Seva exists within our heart. And therefore, instead of brain, the moment we start connecting our heart, Hridaya Chitta Samvita, heart is the center of our consciousness. And the moment we connect with our consciousness, Seva becomes our bhava. It doesn't have to be learned in any curriculum. And the spirit of giving others, sharing our wealth with others. So back to basics, right? I mean, we would say that, oh, if Indian sciences, I would say yoga and Ayurveda are Indian sciences. They talked about it as a part of our ultimate test, even within karma. So why are we not including this as a part of our curriculum? Why are we not practicing at family level, community level? The best thing that we can do is inculcate Viveka Buddhi, because it is the Viveka which will help us between the Hita and Ahita. Unfortunately, the entire mindset of industrial revolution, the white revolution, the green revolution, in reality, if you read Vandana Shiva's books and many other environmental psychologists or environmentally awareness driven people, if you listen to Satish Kumar's videos and read his literature in Resurgence, you would realize that we have created Ahita Ayu for ourselves because of limiting our pragya or Viveka Buddhi, not using Indriya Jaya as our guiding principle, but giving away our life to sensual pleasure. And this is what Atma Hita we have left it. We have not created our focus on Atma Hita. because Atma is connected with cosmos. So the moment you become selfish in the right way, the entire community benefits, the environment benefits. One of the way of Indriya Jaya is to understand Asatmindriyartha Sanyoga, the misuse of senses and Pragya Aparadha, which has led to the current crisis of pandemic. And imagine, this is all written there in our Ayurveda. We study Swastha Vritta. We study what will create us as Swastha, steady in senses, steady in our inner being, and not just our outer senses. The senses that have a tendency, the manas that has a tendency to go out, can also be turned inward. And when we look at Ayurveda psychology, why do I emphasize on psychology? Because we say psychology is the science of psyche. And psyche means consciousness. When we translate psychology in our Bharatiya languages, we call it a Manas Shastra or Manas Shastra. The current curriculum, the Western curriculum, the European and American curriculum, has not been able to even describe today what is consciousness and what is manas. So imagine if you don't know our continuity, and therefore Ayurveda begins with cosmology, where it says that there was an unmanifest, a vyakta, from which there was a vyakta. So therefore, we are called Vyakti in Hindi or Sanskrit. We are called Vyakti. Everyone is Vyakti because Vyakta, from Avyakta came Vyakti. And from Vyakti, which is a combination of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas and the Panch Mahabhuta, came everything that we see in the cosmos. And from there, our 10 Indriyas, 5 Karmendriya, 5 Granendriya, and the 11th Indriya is Manas. And any Jivatma which has come from Avyakta to Vyakta, the Jivatma to experience life needs the help of Indriya and Manas. Without the Sharira, in which there are these 11 Indriyas or the 10 Indriyas and the Manas, the Jivatma cannot experience life. So the best education that we can share with everyone today is you understand the correlation between manas, where the greed has entered, and the use of 11 indriyas into our everyday life. So the asatmendriya can happen at 3 levels. It can be a ati yoga, which means we use our indriyas too much. It can be a yoga where some of the indriyas or some of the senses are not used much or very less used. Or it can be a mithya yoga where the indriyas are used in a wrong way, in a viruddha way, which can create actually a disease in the body or in the mind. And now we can look at Ati Yoga. Let's look at Ati Yoga first and we'll look at the modern expression. And you'll be surprised that how our modern lifestyle, the industrial revolution mindset driven lifestyle, is actually making us do the wrong thing in every indriya used in the world. So there is overindulgence of sex organs or sensual organs and the all other senses. The sight of objects with powerful light or the heat or the hearing, they are all used in too much, right? We realized that today the world of advertising and marketing has created so much of overindulgence. Ati yoga is nothing else but overindulgence. Look at all the webinars we have now. At one level, it is good that we are able to spread knowledge. But at other level, do you realize that how it is harming our eyes? How the screen time, I mean, I've come back to Coimbatore after 8 months and I realize my 5-year young grandson is now wearing glasses. I was shocked to see him in glasses. That, I mean, one of the reason is all the online classes. exposure to bright light for long hours, listening to loud music. And today we see all the young generation with all the headphones and technology, the excessive use of loud music, excessive consumption of food. Psychology says that food is replacement of love in our life. Food replaces the need for protection in our life. And we realize that more and more working couples, right? There is no mother and grandmother sitting at home, pampering the child, feeding the child, taking care, cooking food with love. So what is happening with all the outside food available, all the services available for ready-made food to be delivered at home, and the women who have been, brainwashed to believe that having a career is the great value, right? As if being a wife, being a mother, being a good daughter is not enough, right? It has no value. Why are you spending so much time in the kitchen? Somebody else can do that for you. Trust me, in Chandogya Upanishad, there is a saying which says that our body is made up of the food we eat, but our manas is made up of sukshmatam bhava of the food we eat. And while I was writing my book on emotional intelligence and doing corporate programs, I said, oh, I must find out what is the subtlest part, the sukshmatam bhava of food. And with more research, I realized that it is the bhava with which the food is cooked. It is the bhava with which the food is even grown. Today morning, before I came here for the webinar, I was in my garden here in Coimbatore home. And my gardener has planted one more banana tree today. And the joy you would have seen on my face and the gardener's face also. So imagine the kind of joy we can derive when we are connected with nature. You may need only one banana, which is grown with love, which is served with love, to for your hunger. But when we are disconnected with nature, when we are maybe you eating food which is cooked in artificial environment or even grown in artificial environment, you need more food because that food is neither able to nourish the body nor able to nourish the mind. The jobs that require constant speaking or talking, noise pollution, overuse of strong odors. It of course one knows, but all the perfumes have alcohol in it. And one of my Muslim student in Dubai told me once that, ma'am, we don't use perfumes because it has alcohol. And I said, oh my God, how come we Sanatanis never pay attention to our skin and what are we spraying on our skin? So if we are spraying an artificial perfume on our skin, obviously through the skin, it is creating a certain kind of, bhava in our body and bhava in our mind also. And therefore, in our culture, we had a lot of flowers, right? Flowers were a part of everyday life, the natural fragrance of flowers. So Ati Yoga is too much perfume, too much artificial smell, uh, chemical factories, too much air pollution with strong odors, right? Also, if the work is Ati in sitting in one desk for long time, overexposure to sunlight, excessive thinking, excessive muscle and physical stressors. I feel surprised when I see the younger generation spend so much time at gym, and that also at a wrong time. Ayurveda and yoga very clearly says exercises should be done in the morning. Evening is not the time to do exercise. Evening is the time to wind up the work. Ayurveda very clearly says that our heart is compared with a lotus flower, Kamala, Hridaya Kamala. And what does the Kamala do? Anyone who has seen a lotus flower knows that with the sun rising, the lotus opens up. And with the sun setting, it closes. The same thing happens to our Hridaya Kamala. It's very unfortunate that we don't learn this. Families don't practice this. But with evening is the time to wind up from the external environment. Go inward, spend time with your family, spend time with your own self, and allow the hridaya to rest. A lot of heart attacks that we see today in the younger generation could be due to a lot of gymming in the evening, lot of activity in the evening, and also of course the drug and substance abuse. Just the reverse of ati is ayoga. Ayoga means less or inadequate or insufficient. How much time do we spend in closed offices so we are not having a fresh air, it's or air conditioned? The extreme weather in Sonipat forces me in summer into the indoors because I need air conditioning. And I realize that my skin becomes unduly dry because of excessive air conditioning in which I'm sitting and spending time. Of course, also what happens, you're not having enough sunlight, enough fresh air. So vitamin D deficiency starts happening. With vitamin D deficiency, calcium deficiency starts. And very unfortunate that all the natural ways of having the calcium or vitamin D in our body, we have stopped it. So we take pills. We think that medicine will replace the ayoga of our karma. So eating disorders, a lot of weight loss diets. I really believe that Ayurveda nutrition or Ayurveda way of diet, the ahar related guidelines should be made compulsory in all our curriculums. All those keto diets or salad diets or even millet diets actually are causing more health problems because raw salads or millets can create rukshata or dryness and increase the vata in the body. Living and working in a low lit or dark areas, lack of affection or touch during formative years, and not just formative years, but as we grow. Imagine how much love and fondling a small baby receives, right? There is so much touch. I still remember because we were a joint family. And the moment I come back from school, of course, my mother is at home, my grandmother is at home, and you hug everyone and they caress you, they touch you, they make you go to sleep. Now, what has happened? The touch part is missing from most children and adult life. And touch or sparsha is something which keeps the vata down. Touch or sparsha is something which keeps the heart happy. And imagine the lack of touch, the lack of sparsha in formative years of the child is causing so much of mental and anxiety related problems. What all the ADHD problems that we are seeing today, it could be, we can bring it back to the wrong diet and lack of touch in the formative years. There is sometimes either too much gymming or there is lack of exercise. The taste, vision, smell is underdeveloped because we are limiting the taste to only the salt and sour or overindulgence in sweet. But the bitter and astringent, which is also needed for health, is totally missing. Not developing the sense of touch with food we consume, and therefore eating with a spoon or a fork does not give us the Panch Mahabhuta which are there in our fingertips. Mix with the food and enjoy that food. And the Mithya Yoga, we realize that Mithya or the wrong application causes ahita. And one of the examples of Mithya Yoga we realize is wrong combination of food. When I did my course in Ayurveda, the diploma in Ayurveda, and we laughed with our Guruji, and we said, oh my God, if this is Viruddha Ahar, then all the homes, even in India, where Ayurveda should have been our own wisdom, we are eating a lot of wrong combination of food which can create diseases. And of course, junk food, Maggie, imbalanced diet, lab grown food, lack of hygiene. I'm really surprised when, and Punyaji is aware, we have had discussions on this when I was in AICTE. Engineering colleges especially, but not just engineering, I've experienced it in management colleges as well. The lack of hygiene, not taking a bath every day, the shaucha part, not there in our younger generation. It's really shocking. It's very surprising. Also, wrongful speech, harsh, violent, dishonest words, staying in an artificial environment for too long, not allowing dinacharya or riticharya. Also, the night jobs are mithya because the hriday has to sleep at night. This is all can cause ahita and also dukha. But now when we look at the word sukha, the etymology says su is auspicious, well-being and expanded. And kha is a space or location. So the environment where we are needs to be auspicious. Only then we can experience sukha. So sukha is not a skill. Sukha is not a cognitive practice. Sukha is not something which is in the brain, but sukha is something we have to create in every space where we live. So it can be our deha, which is the physical. It can be psychological, which is our manas. It can be mental, which is our intellectual satisfaction. It is our home and community, and it is also in the environment. And when you break down, of course, Hitta precedes Sukha. That's why we spend so much time on Hitta. But when you break down Sukha also in different components, Charak Samhita very clearly says that lack of disease, a holistic health only can create Sukha. So we cannot teach Sukha or happiness courses to people who are physically or mentally not into the best of space. Also, it's really a wrong understanding that, oh, India says no money needed, yogis don't need wealth. In fact, we worship Mahalakshmi, right? We worship Lakshmi in all the 8 forms, which means we must have a good standard of living. We should afford what we need in life, and also access to resources. That is our definition of development, a holistic development, what we call regenerative development. And therefore, Vidya Lakshmi, Dhanya Lakshmi, Dhairya Lakshmi, Anna Lakshmi, right? Vijaya Lakshmi, the Lakshmi in all the Ashta aspects are needed. And also the social integration, the ability to work. As long as we live, we should be able to work. We should be able to contribute to the purpose of our life. So this is what, again, Charak Samhita defines Sukha. And of course, it is connected with Hita. When you say those who are youthful, you may question that, oh, so only young people can be happy. What about people who are 60 plus? What about old people? Do they stop being happy? No. Ayurveda very clearly defines youthfulness as the youthfulness in your body, in your voice, in your mind. So it's not about the age being youth, right? It's not about age being in youthfulness, but it's about your body, your utsaha, being the youthfulness, having that youngness till you live. Having that vitality, the virya, fertility. It's sad that in Japan today, I read that the stress is too much, that the fertility of men and women is going down. And you have to get the virya from the grandfather's generation to create the sustain the progeny of the next generation. Yasha or respect, glory, honor, purushartha, we need parakrama, we need jnana and vijnana, and all the indriyas. And therefore, I talked about ati yoga, ayoga, and mithya yoga that we need to avoid, because we can be happy or we can be in a sukha state only when our indriyas are in our control. So we can look at Hita and Sukha, you both. at individual level, social level, economic, environmental, and also the universal or the cosmic level. So this can become our new normal by reviving dharma. So I would leave this one question with all of you, that whatever you are doing today, I'm sure many of us are practicing good practices, which are dharmic, which are Ayurvedic, which are yogic. Let's continue doing that in a conscious way. Let's spread them as awareness. So what would you continue doing? Many things we may not be doing. What will you begin doing? And a lot of wrong things that we are doing in our life. Let's make a list of it. And can we stop doing that? This, I loved when I saw this, that a lot of people, we aspire the younger generation to earn more and save more and create wealth. Satish Kumar very clearly says that bankers are not wealth creators. The artists, the farmers, the dancers, the mothers, these are the wealth creators. I mean, we will never have a monkey with tons of banana as the world's richest monkey, right? We'll say that's abnormal behavior. Why do we allow this adharmic, ahita behavior which creates dukkha in human beings? And with that, I end my session today.
थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बहुत ही एक नए विचार और नई दृष्टि हमेशा आप देती है जब भी आपका हम लोग आपसे कुछ सुनते हैं। तो एक प्रश्न था कि एक प्रश्न आया था कि इज देयर एनी डिफरेंस इन सुख एंड आनंद और इज इट सेम? सो इस पर आप थोड़ा प्रकाश डालें।
ये मैं थोड़ा बैडमिंटन खेलूं अभी, तो
बिल्कुल।
मैं ये प्रश्न अनुराधा जी को दे दूंगी। She is a better person than me to explain this. मैं तो इतना ही कहूंगी, if we are in a state of sukha for long, and we are living a hita life, then ultimately it would lead to ananda, because ananda is not to be learned. Ananda, according to me, is just to be discovered. It's there within us. We are born out of ananda, right? And therefore, when somebody dies, we say that person took away the leela, right? So the moment we realize that coming on this planet is a leela, it's a game of life, that should generate ananda, because we are born out of ananda and we mix in ananda.
Thank you, ma'am. Anuradha ji.
Anuradha ji can certainly add in a scientific perspective.
I thought let me try. The thing is that the word ananda has the root nand in it. And nand means the sense of joyful, blissful being. No, it's a verb that says to enjoy a kind of a blissful state of being. So ananda means where there's no interruption. From beginning to end, it is only that state. And that's what it would represent. Sukha, if you break it up the way I like to do it, can have two meanings actually. So su means excellent and kha means senses. So the usual understanding of sukha is that which is pleasurable to senses. And when we are talking of pleasurable, you can understand it as in terms of gratification, which can be more of prayas than shreyas. And we've got Shreyas ji who can elaborate on Shreyas if he want, and I can do a re-ping pong to him to talk more about his own name. And I will do that. I think it's important in this context to understand that. But I'll just complete it and ping pong it over to him to talk about his own name here, so that we know what this division kind of thing, people who are there, and what our names represent. And so we have but you can also have a pleasurable, which is in a deeper sense of the good for the individual, more of the Shreyas concept.
Yes.
But the word sukha, the kha can also mean spaces. So sukha actually means excellent spaces. And therefore outside excellent spaces and inside excellent spaces. And then it's a whole philosophy of space management, internal space design, self-architecture and all that I say. But then you can also look at this as from the Chandogya Upanishad. Sanat Kumara, Rishi Sanat Kumara he defines sukha. He says, Yo vai bhuma tat sukham, that which is expansive. So anything that is small, anything that is not in sync, we cannot lead to sukha, cannot lead to the greater sukha. And ananda is that state of existing where there is no other kind of other vibration. So Shreyasji, over to you.
जी, मेरे तो इतने सारे लोग हैं, पुनिया सर है, सभी लोग हैं, तो बोलते हैं कि ये नहीं है, फिर भी अल्प शब्दों में अगर कहूँ तो श्रेयस एंड प्रेयस, सो दैट गिव्स यू मटेरियल प्लेजर, तो उसे कहते हैं प्रेयस। एंड बियॉन्ड दैट, जिसे हम लोग आनंद बोल रहे हैं अभी, तो दैट लीड्स टू द श्रेयस, दैट इज कल्याणकारी। एंड द सेकंड डेफिनेशन इज प्रेय इज जो आपको, जो आपका माध्यम होता है, दैट इज प्रेय है, और उसका गंतव्य है श्रेय होता है। तो प्रेय अगर वेद है, पुराण है, शास्त्र है, योग है, ये सब माध्यम है किस लिए? आनंद की प्राप्ति के लिए या मोक्ष के लिए। तो उसका गंतव्य जो होता है वो श्रेयस होता है। और अगर माध्यम में ही हम लोग, मैं वैदिक और वेदों को ही पकड़ के रखूँ और जिस जहाँ पर जाना है वो भूल जाऊँ, तो शायद मैं प्रेयस हो जाऊँ। तो ठीक है, इतना बोलना मुझे लगता है यहाँ पर ठीक होगा। तो एक लास्ट क्वेश्चन हमारा, जिसे कि 5 बातें आज के यूथ के लिए आयुर्वेद के बेस पर 5 बुलेट्स अगर आप देनी चाहिए शॉर्ट में, तो आप क्या बताएँगे? 5 ऐसी बातें जो हर एक स्टूडेंट अपने जीवन में आज के इसके अनुसार धारण करे।
तो सबसे पहले तो मैं यही कहूंगी कि सेल्फ नॉलेज, राइट। स्टूडेंट को पता ही नहीं है कि उसका शरीर कैसे बना है, उसका मन क्या है और मन कैसे काम करता है। तो सेल्फ अवेयरनेस ये सबसे पहले बहुत जरूरी है, और उसके लिए आयुर्वेद और योग के बिना आप नहीं जान पाएंगे। बिकॉज द वेस्टर्न बायोलॉजी विल टीच यू एवरीथिंग इन अ सेपरेट वे, but that integration comes only from Ayurveda and yoga. So self awareness, so you know yourself. Two, the moment you are self aware, self management, because it's not enough in the corporate language they call it knowing doing gap, which means I know but I'm not doing anything about it, and we need to bridge that gap. As Anuradha ji described, as Shreyas ji described, even if I know what is sukha or what is excellence or what is prayers and what is good for me and what is not good for me, but if I'm not doing anything about it, so self-awareness, and then the second would be self-management. The moment I'm doing these two, it expands naturally to the community around me. So spread whatever you are doing to the community. The moment you become self-aware, you practice dinacharya, you integrate some of the ritucharya, talk about it to all your friends in your family, right? So that is the third thing, expand it to community. Fourth is expand it to the environment. Be very mindful of what you consume. Make choices. I've just come back from Zurich University, where I talked about Hita and Ahita and Sukha and Dukha. And I was very happy that Professor Michael, when he brought me a bottle of water in plastic, and he said, sorry, Mala ji, I've got you Ahita. So, this conscious awareness of what we do in everything, how is it impacting the environment? That will be the fourth thing. Right? Be conscious, make conscious choices of what you consume. Let's say if you are traveling somewhere, carry your own thermos. Don't pick up plastic bottles at every juncture. I feel very surprised when even in conferences that are talking of environment or Ayurveda or yoga, but they provide plastic bottles. So be aware of every little action, because every little action matters. And the last is create your own new normal. The world of marketing is here to put down your throat, lab grown meat and coke and everything which is ahita and will create dukkha. So create your own new normal. And that's your self responsibility for your health. Don't leave health to a doctor. Become your own doctor. That will be the best thing by creating new normal.
थैंक यू वेरी मच मैम। अभी मैं हमारे आज के प्रमुख अतिथि डॉक्टर पुनिया सर जी को निवेदन करता हूँ कि कृपया वे अपने विचार प्रस्तुत करें और अपने अनुभवों से हमें और कुछ करने की प्रेरणा दें।
माला जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपने जिस तरह से करीब 1 घंटा मेस्मराइज किया है, जिस तरह से जोड़ के रखा है, अपने आप में एक अभूतपूर्व क्षण हमारे लिए। ये मैं आपको तहे दिल से धन्यवाद करता हूँ। और लगता है कि ऐसे ऐसे लेक्चर्स हमने पहले क्यों नहीं सुने, पहले हमें क्यों नहीं मौका मिला आप जैसे व्यक्तित्व से जुड़ने का। शायद कुछ हम अच्छा कर पाते। आज हमारे साथ घंटी मूर्ति जी भी हैं, अनुराधा जुड़े हुए हैं, हमारी टीम श्रेयस, अनुराग। सो इट्स ए वंडरफुल वंडरफुल कॉम्बिनेशन। इनफैक्ट बहुत बड़ा जो है एक अपने लिए प्लेटफॉर्म, बहुत बड़ा सहयोग। मैं धन्यवाद दूंगा पूरी टीम के लिए कि शायद काफी युवा भी हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए होंगे। और आपने जो 5 बातें लास्ट में जो है कही, विशेष रूप से यूथ हमारे साथ जुड़ा हुआ है। सबसे पहले आपने सेल्फ नॉलेज की बात की। मैं क्यों हूं, मेरा पर्पस क्या है इस दुनिया में, मैं क्या कंट्रीब्यूट कर सकता हूं, ये चीज यूथ को जो है समझाने की जरूरत है, या यूथ को समझने की जरूरत है। उसको समझाएगा कौन, यूथ को ये बात समझाएगा कौन कि मैं क्यों हूं, व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ माय लाइफ, इन व्हाट वे आई कैन ब्रिंग द हार्मनी, द बैलेंस इन दिस होल नेचर। इस एनवायरनमेंट में कैसे मैं हार्मनी ला सकता हूं। हमारा जो विशेष देश भारत देश जो है, जो अपने आप में एक उदाहरण है पूरी दुनिया के लिए। जो और आज से नहीं, पता नहीं लाख साल 10,000 साल पहले, पता नहीं कब से जो है, और जब से ये वेदों का हमारा गरिमापूर्ण इतिहास रहा है, और जो जिस तरह से पूरी दुनिया को दिशा देने वाला देश था। और आज जब आपकी बात हमने सुनी, और जिस तरह से जो है अहिंसा और अधर्मा की जो है बात सुनी, तो कई बार मेरे को ये लगता है माला जी कि हम भटक कैसे गए। जब हम दुनिया को दिशा देने वाले थे, शायद संपूर्ण ज्ञान हमारे पास में था, वो कैसे भटक गए हम बच्चे को जो है सेल्फ नॉलेज जो है उसको यही चीज क्यों नहीं बता पाए कि आपका बेटा कर्तव्य क्या है। मेरे को ये लगता है जो ये भटकाव आया, अधर्मा की बात जो आई, मेरे को ये लगता है कि हमारी जो व्यवस्था थी, जिसकी वजह से हम स्पेशल थे, जो हम प्रकृति के पुजारी थे, कभी भी हमारे वेदों के हिसाब से मानव को प्रकृति से ऊपर नहीं माना गया है, नेचर से कभी ऊपर नहीं माना गया है। ये अहित होने शुरू हुए, ये अधर्म होने शुरू हुए जब हमने प्रकृति से ऊपर मानव को मान लिया। मानव ने अपने आप को प्रकृति के ऊपर मान लिया, और उसी दिन से हमारा बिखराव शुरू हुआ। क्यों माना प्रकृति से ऊपर जो है, सबसे बड़ी हमारी जो पारिवारिक व्यवस्था थी, जो संयुक्त परिवार की आप बात कर रहे थे, हमारे संयुक्त परिवार के अंदर एक एक पूरी शिक्षा की व्यवस्था थी। हमारे जो ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स थे वो हमारे सबसे अच्छे शिक्षक थे। और जो अपन संस्कार की बात करते हैं, संस्कृति की बात करते हैं, स्वभाव की बात करते हैं, व्यक्तित्व की बात करते हैं, वो हमें कहाँ से आती थी, वो हमें परोस के दी जाती थी। बच्चे को दादा दादी की तरफ से परोस के दी जाती थी, उसको कहीं सिखाने की जरूरत नहीं थी। सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल डिफाइन करने की जरूरत नहीं थी यूएन को। हम तो सस्टेनेबल ही थे, पारिवारिक ढांचा ही हमारा सस्टेनेबल था। मेरे हिसाब से जो सबसे बड़ी जो हमारी भूल हुई है, जो इस स्थिति में हम पहुंचे हैं, सबसे बड़ा कारण हमने जो असम्मान जो करना शुरू किया उन शिक्षकों का, जो हमारे परिवार के मुखिया थे, उनको जब इससे से दूर करना शुरू किया अपने पारिवारिक व्यवस्था से, उसी दिन हमारा जो है अधर्म शुरू हो गया था, और हमने अहित करना शुरू कर दिया था। अब अपन पैरासिटामोल ढूंढ रहे हैं, अपन जो ये कर रहे हैं सिम्टम्स हैं, हम इन सिम्टम्स का इलाज करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। बट द रूट कोज व्हाई दिस सिचुएशन इट हैज कम अप, मेन रीजन वाज दिस डिसइंटीग्रेशन इन द फैमिली। आज भी हम दुनिया में के परिवारों के कंपैरिजन में आज भी मजबूत हैं, टुकड़े टुकड़े चाहे हो गए हैं। जब ये कोरोना आया, सबसे विकसित देश अमेरिका, कनाडा, यूरोप, ये वो सब सुविधाएं थी उनके पास, सब इलाज उनके पास थे। हमारे पास तो सिवाय इस पॉपुलेशन के कुछ भी नहीं था। लेकिन जब त्रासदी होने लगी, सबसे ज्यादा त्रासदी होने लगी अमेरिका के अंदर, जिनके पास सबसे ज्यादा संसाधन थे, सबसे ज्यादा मेटलिस्टिक लाइफ की जो अगर बात करते हैं, धन धान्य की बात करते हैं, उनके पास थे। सबसे ज्यादा त्रासदी वहां पे हुई। जो 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 आपके वृद्धाश्रम थे वहां पे, जितने लोग अकेले बुजुर्ग जो उन वृद्धाश्रमों में थे, उनके आसपास कोई नहीं था। उनको लगा कि मेरी मदद करने वाला कोई नहीं, मैं अकेला हूं। जो उसको घबराहट हुई, जो एक एक व्यवस्था के अंदर उसको होना चाहिए था, वो बीमारी से नहीं मरा, वो इस घबराहट से मर गया जो है। लेकिन भारत में फिर भी दादा दादी नहीं थे तो माँ शायद साथ में थी, माँ नहीं तो पत्नी साथ में थी, पत्नी के साथ साथ बच्चे भी साथ में थे। अगर पति को कोरोना के कोई सिम्टम आए तो पत्नी भी साथ में खड़ी हुई कि डोंट वरी, आई एम विद यू। जो विद यू वाला हमारा अभी भी जो जो बचा हुआ है, विद यू वाला जो बचा हुआ है, शायद इसने हमें इस त्रासदी के अंदर भी बचाया। और ये इस चीज को, विद यू वाले कंसेप्ट को इस अगर अपन लेके जाते हैं, वही हमारा फैमिली स्ट्रक्चर, वही हमारा अनुशासन, वो हित करने का, एक दूसरे के लिए जो है, अगर परिवार में एक व्यक्ति के अगर आंसू आते थे तो दूसरे के भी उससे पहले आंसू आते थे। ये जो धर्म था ये तो भूल गए हम जो है, बिल्कुल रोबोट की तरह से हमने व्यवस्थित कर लिया। इवन दूसरा पार्ट, शिक्षा के अंदर हमने बच्चे को हमेशा ये सिखाया कि इस तरह से करना है आपको, इस तरह से सीखना है। ये कभी नहीं सिखाया क्यों सीखना है आपने। वाई वाला जो कंसेप्ट था, वो वाई हमने भुला दिया। हमने हमने पारिवारिक ढांचा तोड़ दिया, हमने शिक्षा को जो है व्यवस्थित कर दिया। तो आपने जो सेकंड बात कही है, एक तो सेल्फ नॉलेज और एक सेल्फ मैनेजमेंट की आप बात कही है कि सिर्फ मेरा नॉलेज नहीं, मैं परिवार के किस तरह से काम में आ सकता हूं, मैं कम्युनिटी के किस तरह से उसको एक्सपांड करने वाली बात, मेरी व्यवस्थाओं को मैं कैसे एक्सपांड कर सकता हूं, मेरी उपयोगिता को मैं कम्युनिटी के साथ किस तरह से कनेक्ट कर सकता हूं कि वो हित होने वाली बात होगी, वो नहीं। फिर एनवायरमेंट के साथ कनेक्ट करने की बात। और फिर सबसे लास्ट आपने जो 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 इसके अंदर बात कही है कि आपका न्यू नॉर्मल, अपना न्यू नॉर्मल जो सस्टेनेबल हो। देखो भारत की अगर बात करें, तो भगवान शब्द भी मैं सोचता हूं, ये भगवान शब्द कैसे आया। भय मीन्स भूमि, ग गगन, वह वायु, ए अग्नि, न नीर, जो जो तत्व थे वो हमने इस प्रकृति को प्रजर्व करने के लिए पूजा करना शुरू किया। देखो कितने पार हमारे जो है लोग, जो जो विजनरी लोग थे, किस तरह से इसको, धरती को हमने माता का, हमने जो जो आकाश को हमने पिता का, पूरी सारी चीजें थी उसको जो है पुत्र का, एक परिवार की भांति जो है इसको जोड़ा, इसकी पूजा की और इसके लिए उदाहरण बने। लेकिन तोड़ते 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 जो है, मैं यहाँ पे आईआईटी दिल्ली से मैंने पीएचडी किया। मैं यहाँ पे 90 से लेके 97 तक पीएचडी कर रहा था आईआईटी दिल्ली में। मेरा रूटीन जो था, करीब करीब सुबह 5 बजे उठना। और आज आपने एक शाम वाली बात मेरे को, आयुर्वेदा का जो मैं आयु और विज्ञान की आप बात करते हैं, वो इसके अंदर आपने सबसे बड़ी बात कही कि एक्सरसाइज, जिम, शाम को तो अपने को कमल के फूल को जो है बंद होने का टाइम है, उस तरह से हम जो है शाम को जाके, मैं तो रात को जाके वो एक्सरसाइजेज कर रहा हूँ, ये वो, तो मैं तो इस कमल को रात को भी खोलने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, ऐसा प्रेशर डाल रहा हूँ। तो मैं आईआईटी दिल्ली के अंदर था, मेरा भी अच्छा सा रूटीन था, योगा, मेडिटेशन, ये करना, तो मन को भी शांत करने के लिए, दिमाग को भी शांत करने के लिए, फिजिकली भी जो है स्ट्रांग होने के लिए। जिस लेबोरेटरी में हम काम कर रहे थे, इंटरनल कंबशन इंजन पे जब हम काम कर रहे थे, उस एक लेबोरेटरी में हम 11 रिसर्च स्कॉलर थे। छोटी लैब थी ये। आईआईटी जो है करीब 1960, 1961, 62 के आसपास बनी। और उस इंजन की लैब में कभी किसी ने कल्पना भी नहीं की होगी 1960 में कि एक साथ 11 रिसर्च स्कॉलर काम करेंगे। एवरी रिसर्च स्कॉलर विल बी ऑपरेटिंग एन इंजन एंड दैट इंजन विल बी फ्यूल्ड विद डीजल और पेट्रोल और लेडेड पेट्रोल और जो 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 कितने अनबर्न्ड हाइड्रोकार्बन चाहिए वो। उस छोटी लैब में आके सुबह 8 बजे हम शुरू कर देते थे, रात को 10-11 बजे तक उसके अंदर काम करते थे। बट माई रूटीन वॉज गेटिंग अप अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग, गोइंग फॉर जॉगिंग फॉर सम 7-8 किलोमीटर। और आईआईटी दिल्ली तो दक्षिणी दिल्ली में है, बहुत सुंदर जगह है, अच्छा साफ सुथरा है। एक साल उस वातावरण में, उस धुएं के वातावरण में काम करने के बाद, आई वॉज अनेबल इवन टू क्लाइंब ए सिंगल स्टेयर, फॉरगेट अबाउट 7-8 किलोमीटर दौड़ना, ये वो। माई हार्ट बीट वॉज अराउंड 150। जो नॉर्मल हार्ट बीट 72 होती है, मेरी हार्ट बीट 150 थी। जब 72 होती है तो अपने को पता ही नहीं होता हार्ट किस साइड में है। लेकिन जब 150 होती है तो दोस्त को भी पता चलता है, पड़ोसी को भी पता चलता है कि इसका हार्ट चल रहा है। इवन स्लीपिंग बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट। कोई भी एबनॉर्मलिटी आपके बॉडी में आते हैं, पर्टिकुलरली इस तरह का हार्ट में, स्लीपिंग बिकम्स डिफिकल्ट। आई गॉन टू डॉक्टर, आई सेड टू डॉक्टर, सर मैं तो बड़ा फिट, ये वो जो है, व्हाट इज इट हैज हैपेंड टू मी, आई एम अनेबल टू स्लीप, ही हैज टेकन सम एक्सरेज एंड फाइनली ही सेड आर यू ए चेन स्मोकर। मैंने कहा सर मेरी तो कोई दोस्ती नहीं है से कोई जो है बीड़ी सिगरेट पीने वालों से ये। सो ही सेड योर लंग्स इट हैज बीन चोक्ड कंप्लीटली, धुएं से भर गए हैं, इफ यू वांट टू सर्वाइव बेटर यू लीव दिल्ली। ये मैं 90 92 93 की बात बता रहा हूँ। आई लेफ्ट दिल्ली, गॉन टू माय विलेज, 5-7 महीने जैसे करके ये वो जो है मैंने वापस कुछ नॉर्मल होने की कोशिश की। इवन टुडे आफ्टर डूइंग ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ एक्सरसाइजेज, ऑल सॉर्ट ऑफ डिसिप्लिन लाइफ, एवरीथिंग, ईटिंग हैबिट्स, एवरीथिंग, मेरी हार्ट बीट कभी भी 100 से कम नहीं आई है, नेवर। जो 72 होनी चाहिए 100 से कम अभी तक मैं नहीं लेके आ पाया। और आज मेरे को लगता है दिल्ली वैसी है जैसा मेरा 1990 में लेबोरेटरी के अंदर जैसा माहौल था पोल्यूशन का, वैसी की वैसी दिल्ली आज है। जो पार्टिकुलेट मैटर्स की बात आप कर रहे थे, जो जो क्वालिटी इंडेक्स, जो जो एयर क्वालिटी इंडेक्स की जो बात कर रहे, इट इज सेम विच आई हैड इन लेबोरेटरी। तो इस शिक्षा का, इस डेवलपमेंट का करेंगे क्या जब हमारे पास स्वास्थ्य ही नहीं है। आप जो पांचों तत्व हैं, भूमि की बात, भूमि का जिस तरह से दोन के आपने एक उदाहरण दिया, एक एक राजा का जो वेश बदल के गया, बुढ़िया ने जो है उनको शुगर केन का रस दिया ये वो, लेकिन सेकंड बार तो उसके अंदर रस था ही नहीं, खींच लिया सारा सारा। भूमि का आपने जिस तरह से दोहन किया है, नथिंग इज देयर इन आवर सॉइल। अपनी इस माता के अंदर, जो माता कहते हैं भूमि को, उसके अंदर कुछ भी नहीं है। ये कैंसरस हो गई है, कैंसर कर दिया है हमने, जितने केमिकल्स फर्टिलाइजर्स इसके अंदर डाले हैं। माई होम टाउन इज नियर टू पंजाब, और पंजाब के अंदर जिस तरह से दोहन हुआ है इस जमीन का जो है, कैंसर हो गया। अगर आप उसके अंदर फर्टिलाइजर्स, आर्टिफिशियल फर्टिलाइजर्स नहीं डालोगे, इवन 1 एकड़ में 5 किलो अनाज नहीं हो सकता है। दे आर टेकिंग सम 40 क्विंटल्स ऑफ दैट व्हीट फ्रॉम दैट वन, सिर्फ आर्टिफिशियली जो है। तो इसको तो अपने कैंसर कर दिया, भूमि को अपन ने खत्म कर दिया। उस एरिया से फ्रॉम अबोहर फाजिल्का बठिंडा वन ट्रेन इज लीडिंग टू बीकानेर। बीकानेर इज ए रिसर्च सेंटर फॉर कैंसर, and the name of train itself is cancer train. It is carrying some 300 new patients every day to from Punjab to Bikaner for the purpose of treatment. तो आपने जो 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 मिट्टी को आपने खराब कर दिया। पानी के अंदर 90% ऑफ इंडियन वाटर, अकॉर्डिंग टू WHO, इट इज नॉट सुटेबल इवन फॉर टेकिंग बाथ, फॉरगेट अबाउट ड्रिंकिंग, नहाने के ही योग्य नहीं है हमारा पानी। आवाज इसकी बात कर रहे हैं, सुबह सुबह बाबा रामदेव सुबह से सुबह कहते हैं कि हैव डीप ब्रीदिंग। आप दिल्ली में डीप ब्रीदिंग करके देखो, आप जो है डीप, और कई बार तो ये लगता है ब्रीद करें या नहीं करें, करना ठीक है या नहीं करना ठीक है। तो आपने हवा को बिगाड़ दिया, आपने पानी को बिगाड़ दिया, आपने आपने जमीन को बिगाड़ दिया, आपने भोजन को बिगाड़ दिया। तो हमारा आयुर्वेदा, जब पांचों तत्व ही हमारे ठीक नहीं है, और आपका वात पित्त की जो बात करते हैं, आप बैलेंस की बात करते हैं कि बॉडी माइंड सोल इंद्रियों में हमारा बैलेंस होगा, कैसे होगा बैलेंस जब हमारा पूरा वातावरण ही हमने दूषित कर दिया है। तो किस तरह से हमारी चीजें बैलेंस होगी। क्या हमारे पास ये कोरोना का ऐसा मैसेज जो प्रकृति ने दिया है कि सुधर जाओ, नहीं तो दीदी सर्वाइवल वोंट बी पॉसिबल, आप लोग बच नहीं पाओगे, क्या इससे आज भी अपन मैसेज ले सकते हैं क्या? क्या हम जो भारत था, जो हमारा पारिवारिक ढांचा था, जो हमारी शिक्षा की व्यवस्था थी, जो हमारी सोच थी, क्या हम उसके ऊपर वापस जा सकते हैं क्या? आपके लेक्चर से मैंने आज यही सीखा है कि ये संभव हो सकता है अगर अपन डिसिप्लिन जीवन में नियमितता और समझें कि हम क्या हैं। जो 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 आपने एक और बहुत बड़ी बात बताई, धर्म और अधर्म की जो बात बताई, चरक जो जो थे, जो राजवैद्य जो जो थे, वो जड़ी बूटियों की जब खोज कर रहे थे, काफी उन्होंने जो है प्रयास किए हैं, काफी खोज के, तभी तो ये विज्ञान बना, अदरवाइज विज्ञान कैसे बनता। जब वे खोज कर रहे थे तो ये एक ऐसे फूल की तलाश के अंदर थे, ऐसी जड़ी बूटी का एक हिस्सा जो फूल जिसको ढूंढ रहे थे, और काफी उन्होंने प्रयास किए, उनको वो फूल नहीं मिल पा रहा था। वो अपने शिष्यों के साथ जंगलों में जो है उस काम के लिए और भटक रहे थे। एक जगह उनको जो है नजर पड़ी, कोई वो सुंदर फूल उनको दिखाई दिया, कहीं पे किसी खेत के अंदर जो है वो सुंदर फूल दिखाई दिया। राजवैद्य जी देख के उनको अच्छा लगा कि मैं जिस खोज में निकला था वो मिल गया। उनके पास कुछ शिष्य थे, लेकिन उस फूल का करें कैसे, तोड़ें कैसे, फूल तो दूसरे का है। ये तो जो किसान परिवार जो है उनका है। तो राजविद्य जी ने अपने शिष्यों को कहा कि ये फूल तो दूसरे का है, अपन तोड़ें कैसे? तो शिष्यों ने कहा सर क्या बात है, ये 2 दिन में फूल वैसे ही जो है नष्ट हो जाएगा, सूख जाएगा, इसमें क्या है, ये तो वापिस जो है ये तो जमीन पे ही जाना है, धरती में जाना है। सर किसी ने कहा नहीं, हम ऐसा अधर्म कैसे कर सकते हैं? जिन लोगों का हमारे पे विश्वास है, जिनको हम प्रोटेक्ट करते हैं, जब तक हम उनको साथ में नहीं लेंगे, हम ये फूल नहीं तोड़ेंगे। 3 कोस वो पैदल चले, जिस किसान का जहाँ पे खेत था, जिसके मालिक थे, उसके पास में गए, उनसे परमिशन ली कि मैं ये आपका फूल तोड़ रहा हूँ। परमिशन के साथ चरक जी ने जो है वो लिया, काम शुरू किया और इस लेवल पे जो है इस विज्ञान को आगे लेके आए। क्या ये संस्कार हम जो है हमारी इस युवा पीढ़ी के अंदर भी दे सकते हैं? क्या संभव है? सिर्फ कमियां निकालने से काम नहीं चलेगा। हमारा रोल जो है, हालांकि हमारा रोल क्रिकेट में अंपायर जैसा नहीं है कि बैट्समैन के पैड पे बॉल लग गई और अपने कह दिया आउट। इससे काम नहीं चलेगा। वी हैव टू बिकम द पार्ट ऑफ दैट गेम। हमें उसके अंदर जुड़ना पड़ेगा, कमियां निकालने की बजाय हमें उनको बताना पड़ेगा कि ये चीजें सही हैं। और वो काम अगर परिवार नहीं कर पा रहा है तो शिक्षक कितना मजबूत है, शिक्षक कर सकता है। शिक्षक पे आज भी समाज का उतना ही विश्वास है जो शायद वेद चरक जी के टाइम था। अगर शिक्षक खड़ा हो गया, शिक्षक जग गया और शिक्षक ने अपना रोल समझ लिया, तो ये चीजें जो आप जो आज आज हमें सिखा रहे हैं, ये बातें हमारी, ये सपना हमारा पूरा हो सकता है। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ पूरी हमारी भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा की टीम, इन्होंने भी एक बड़ा चैलेंज लिया है और बड़ा सा एक परिवर्तन जो है भारतीयता, उसके ऊपर अपने गर्व करें। बच्चा हमारा युवा गर्व करे कि हम भारतीय विशेष क्यों थे, क्या वो गरिमापूर्ण दिन हमारे इस तरह के प्रयासों से हम वापस ला सकते हैं क्या? इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। शायद ये प्रयास अपने सफल होंगे। जय भारत, जय हिंद।
जी, बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद सर। अ, मैं हमारे बीच उपस्थित नेशनल कोऑर्डिनेटर मूर्ति सर जी से अनुरोध करूँगा कि 1-2 शब्दों में इस पर अपने विचार रखें और उसके बाद डॉक्टर अनुराधा जी कार्यक्रम का समापन करें।
सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। माला जी का वो ज्ञान प्रवाह के साथ एकदम बाग धाटी के साथ और प्रोफेसर पुनिया जी का जो जिस तरह से उन्होंने समराइज किया अपने लाइफ के एग्जाम्पल्स देते हुए और उसको एजुकेशन से जुड़ते हुए, जैसे सर आपने जिस तरह से बोला था कि अब अंपायर नहीं बनना है, कोच बनना है, आई थिंक वो जब तक, और वो बात जब आपने कही तो मुझे चाणक्य का बात याद आ गया था कि शिक्षक सामान्य नहीं होता है। एंड उसका एक तो ये है कि उसका उससे हमको पता चलता है कि हमारे ऊपर कितना दायित्व है। और माला जी आपने जिस तरह से पॉइंट्स बताए थे, वो तो उनमें से बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स तो मेरे लिए लागू होते हैं कि मैं शाम को एक्सरसाइज करता हूँ तो अभी से मैंने समझ लिया कि नहीं करना है, सुबह करना है। और एक और बात, हम लोग जिस तरह से आपने हितायु सुखायु का बात किया था और जिस तरह से उसको एक्सपैंड किया था, उसमें एक और पता चलता है कि जिस तरह से हमने संस्कृत के जो टर्मिनोलॉजीज हैं, जिस तरह से वो बनाए गए थे, वो कितना साइंटिफिकली बनाए गए थे और सोच समझ कर बनाए गए थे। और अगर हम इवन ये कॉन्सेप्ट भी, ये थॉट्स भी हम लोग बच्चों को समझा देंगे तो उनको बताना नहीं पड़ेगा कि इतना सब करो, एक बहुत बड़ा डूज एंड डोंट्स का बहुत बड़ा लिस्ट देना नहीं पड़ेगा जब कॉन्सेप्ट समझ जाएंगे। और ऐसे कॉन्सेप्ट जो है हमारे परिवार के बड़े, उनसे जो दादा दादी हैं, नाना नानी हैं, उनसे मिलते थे। और अगर वो हम फिर से उस तरह से जोड़ सकें और ये बोलें कि हम आदमी जो है नेचर से ऊपर नहीं है, वी आर पार्ट ऑफ द नेचर एंड पार्ट ऑफ दिस क्रिएशन, जब तक वो फीलिंग नहीं आएगा, बहुत सारे आपने जो ये किया, और मैं तो सस्टेनेबिलिटी में ये काम करता हूँ, सिस्टम्स एनालिसिस पे काम करता हूँ, तो आपने जो वूका वाला वर्ड बोला, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली द काइंड ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स दैट वी आर फेसिंग इन ऑल काइंड ऑफ सिस्टम्स। एंड currently there is no alternative for the kind of models that we have, and I think the alternative will be the Indian way of doing things. And I think Indian way of doing things is something that is sustainable and strives for the welfare of all. This is something that we say at the IKS division, that we want to do this, demonstrate to the world this Indian way which is sustainable and works for the welfare of all. With those words, मैं पुनः आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ और आशा करता हूँ कि आप बहुत बार आएं यहाँ और हमारे बच्चों को बताएं। और प्रोफेसर पुनिया जी को मैं जानता हूँ कि बहुत व्यस्त समय रहता है उनका, दिन में तो इतने सारे मीटिंग्स रहते हैं, फिर भी सर आपने समय निकाला, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपका। नमस्ते।
जी। धन्यवाद सर। मैं डॉक्टर अनुराधा जी से एक अनुरोध करता हूँ कि आज का वेबिनार और इस वेबिनार सीरीज का कृपया अल्प शब्दों में समापन।
जी, बहुत धन्यवाद श्रेयस जी। और पुण्या जी ने तो बहुत 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 ही सुंदर तरीके से माला जी की बातों को उन्होंने फिर से दोहरा कर समझाया। और मूर्ति जी ने भी उनको एक अपने तरीके से समराइज करके बोला उनका महत्व क्या है। जस्ट एक आपका वो आपने जो माला जी कहानी कही उससे मेरे मन में बहुत एक असर पड़ा है कि जिस ये सोच कि एक एक राजा जो लीडर है उसके एक गलत सोच से क्या सर्वनाश हो सकता है। मतलब एस कार्य तक भी नहीं जाना है, जस्ट एक पासिंग गलत सोच उससे पूरा समाज का कितना दुर क्या बोलते हैं दुरअसर हो सकता है उनका जो सर्वनाश हो सकता है। मेरे ख्याल से अगर हमने इसको समझा आज और अगर क्योंकि वो सोच पर ही शुरू होता है तो हमारा ज़िंदगी हो या हम दूसरों के साथ कैसे व्यवहार करें या कुछ भी, सब कुछ का शुरुआत है हमारे सोच में। सो आवर थॉट्स really are the seeds from which our lives take place and our interactions with the world happen. अतः मैं ये फिर से जस्ट मेरे लिए ये पर्सनली एक बहुत ही कीमती यहाँ से आपके भाषण से मैंने आज लिया है कि जो सर्वनाश होता है वो एक सोच से शुरू होता है। तो हम हर एक अपना और वो सोच और किसी से नहीं घुसता है, वो हमारा ही दायित्व है। और सुख शब्द में भी वो आ जाता है जहाँ पे वो सु एक्सीलेंट स्पेस वो खुद में है। तो अगर खुद में हमने वो स्पेसेस एक्सीलेंट करना शुरू किया तो स्वाभाविक तौर से उसका प्रसार और प्रभाव ज़्यादा रहेगा और समाज भी अभ्युदय और क्या बोलते हैं हित की ओर जाएगा, सबका हित होगा। बहुत धन्यवाद। और इसके साथ आपके ये उत्तम और मेरे ख्याल से आपका लेक्चर का सबसे बहुत चीज़ था कि जो सुनेंगे इसके बाद भी क्योंकि कई लोग जुड़ते हैं, कई लोग सुनते रहते हैं, तो वो ज़रूर इनसे बहुत खुद की ज़िंदगी के लिए बहुत सारे पॉइंट्स ले पाएँगे। और हमारा वही इसके लिए उद्देश्य भी था इस सीरीज़ का। जिस 5 लेक्चर्स थे मगर इसका उद्देश्य ये था कि अलग-अलग जीवन के अलग-अलग क्षेत्र में योग का कैसा प्रभाव रहता है और उसके उसके जो सोच विचार है, उसका जो दर्शन है वो कैसे हम आत्मसात कर सकते हैं। तो ये कोशिश जारी रहेगा जैसे मूर्ति जी ने भी कहा और पुण्य जी ने भी कहा कि हम हमारे आईकेएस डिवीज़न के दौरान ये प्रयास करते रहेंगे कि ये जीवन दृष्टि को कैसे हम अपनों तक और भी और भी क्या बोलते हैं जागरूक रूप से ज़िंदगी में हम ज़िंदगी तक वो ले जा पाए कि ये सिर्फ़ बात नहीं है क्योंकि बात तो बहुत करते हैं हम सब, हमारे संस्कृति के महत्व के बारे में। मगर वो तो भूतकाल में बहुत जो सब हमने साकार किया था और वर्तमान में क्या होगा, भविष्य में क्या होगा वो इस इन आप सबके बातों को अभी लागू करने से वो हम जी पाएँगे और एक अच्छा समाज बना पाएँगे, एक अच्छा विश्व बना पाएँगे। तो बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद और हम ऐसे कार्यक्रम करते रहेंगे जो हमारे श्रोता हैं उनको हम आमंत्रित करते हैं कि हमारे साथ जुड़े रहें और अपने भी जो अच्छे-अच्छे विचार हैं हमको बताएँ। और आप अगर ऐसे भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा को लेकर काम कर रहे हैं या योग पर लेकर कुछ खास काम कर रहे हैं, प्लीज़ हमको आप वो बताएँ। हम अपने शक्ति में जितना कर सके और पुण्या जी और सारा जो एआईसीटी के हैं, मंत्रालय में जो है शिक्षा मंत्रालय में, उनके आशीर्वाद से हम करते रहेंगे और जी, और देश का हित और विश्व गुरु स्थान तक फिर से मिलकर ले जाए वो।
जी। बहुत-बहुत धन्यवाद अनुराधा जी। तो आइए इसी के साथ शांति मंत्रों के द्वारा आज के इस वेबिनार का समापन करें। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम्। समिद्योवसे वृषन्यग्ने विश्वान्यर्य बृहस्पदे समिध्यसे स नो वसून्याभरा संगच्छध्वंसं पदध्वंसं वो मनांसि जानता देवा भागं यथा पूर्वे सञ्जानाना उपासते समानो मन्त्रः समीतिः समानी समानं मनः सह चित्तमेषाम् समानं मन्त्रमभिमन्त्रयेव समानेन वो हविषा जुहोमि समानी व आकूतिः समाना हृदयानि वः समानमस्तु वो मनो यथा वस्सु सहासति पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति